Good morning. It's time for the session to begin. I am Lou Berger. Kent Watson is here with me, as is our secretary, James Cumming. We have, it looks like some good participation both in the room and remote. Welcome. This is the NETMOD session for IETF 126. We're going to start with some of our usual advisory messages. The first is our note well. I suspect people are familiar with it given how late we are into the week, but if we're not, please keep in mind that everything you say here is part of our permanent record and governed by the IETF contribution guidelines. Please feel free to scan it. Also, we are being recorded. We also ask you to be respectful of each other in our conversations. Good arguments on technical points are always welcome, but be respectful, keep it professional. Generally, people are aware of this, but sometimes energy can go the wrong way. Just please adhere to our code of conduct and be respectful. If you are in the room, please scan in. This allows us to get appropriately sized room. It also allows you to participate in comments at the mic. We use an integrated queuing system between both local and remote to ensure that everyone can participate equally. We also, I think we have some polls. We have at least one poll coming up, I think, and you'll want to use the app to participate, and we'd very much like you to do that. Similarly, we'd like you to help contribute to note-taking. There's a link on in Meet Echo. The link is posted here. We have collaborative note-taking through HedgeDoc. It is very important to make sure that the discussion is captured appropriately. If you make a comment, go check to see that your name is in there correctly and that your comment has been appropriately captured. And if you want to help out by capturing other people's comments, we would appreciate that. Kent, would you like to take over?
So we've published a couple documents since last time, RFC 9907, also known as BCP 216. Let's get a round of applause for that. In the RFC editor queue, we have the system config draft, which I believe is RFC to be 10,016. So we are in the 10,000 number of drafts now. We have a number of documents that have been submitted to the ISG for publication, but they're still being looked at by the ISG in varying conditions of progress. And let's see, I'm going to use this one.
Just to mention, when we made the slides, there was an open action on December. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Mahesh, for taking the action and pushing that document beyond that step. So thank you very much.
A number of documents are not on the agenda. Yang packages, Yang version Rex, and data validation, Yang version selection, Yang solutions, and node tags. Some of these have expired, and one actually had been expired for such time that the chairs felt it was time to move it to the dead state. From a liaisons perspective, we've had no incoming nor outgoing liaisons. Yes, Mahesh. Previous slide.
Mahesh, I guess you know the question that's coming. Yes, for those documents that have either expired, do we have an update from the authors? Maybe their work group documents?
There are two of them.
So the only one I think that we did not get an update on that we were sort of, it would be good to get an update on is packages. The other ones we could run through why we're not getting updates, but I think maybe just we could hear from Rob on packages. Unless Rob, you're coming up to say something else.
Packages is on the agenda.
So that's a mistake.
So of the other ones, version requirements, I think we're not planning to ever publish that.
Right. That's actually appropriately reflected on the slide. We got packages right, but wrong, but we got requirements right on there. So
Yeah, so that one I think will end up, we'll kill it off at the end of this work. The Yang solutions, again, I don't think we actually need that one. NETMOD Yang solutions, is that the one related to versioning? No, I don't know what that one is.
Yang solutions is the one which has all
The different bits.
I suspect that Yang solutions might fade away.
Yep.
I would expect versioning requirements to be, when we're done with versioning,
Yep.
we'll make sure everything looks good and publish that. Any data we discussed the last meeting, I don't think we had any update on it. So if we wanted to hear from authors on it, that would be great. Where else are we?
I think any data is actually currently expired on Data Tracker.
And the last one from our side is version selection, which
Right.
is the work we expect to pick up after we've done the current stuff. It's like the last one, I think.
Yep.
I have got a bit more update in my slide deck as well.
All right. So as a co-author of any data, so this one, we couldn't have the time to do address all the feedback on time, but we hope.
Can you point the microphone up?
So we couldn't get all we couldn't address all the feedback on time. So hopefully in the next IETF, we will have an updated document for it.
So I think Mahesh was playing to our final slide, where we ask that we get an update at every meeting. And if you're not presenting, just send that update to the list. So I think our AD is reminding the working group that we really want this to be done. Thanks, Mahesh.
Okay, so we already did the liaison slide. Let's go to the next slide. On the agenda, we have a number of chartered working items being discussed today. Yang packages, guidance for managing Yang modules and RFCs in the IANA registries, Yang schema comparison, Yang next agreement, XML encoding for data modeled with Yang, and the Yang 2 data modeling language. And there's a number of, oh, that's true. We're reversing 3 and 4, right?
We're gonna do the IANA update first. That was the request from the authors, and we agreed.
Okay. And then some non-chartered items, including Yang templates and enhancement to the Yang language for capturing sub-tree replacements, which is actually a second presentation. I think it was presented in 123. Extending normalized forms for string-derived types, and Yang library feature comparison, which is very cool, and the Yang coverage presentation. If you're working remote, this is primarily an organization that works remotely. We utilize the mailing list heavily, always to judge consensus and to resolve issues. So please become active on the mailing list. We do have virtual meetings. If there's a desire or need to have a virtual interim, please ask the chairs to set one up for you. And we can always make WebEx available for you as well if there's a design team or anything like that that would like to have a WebEx. Lou already spoke to this slide, so I don't think I'll go over it again. And that's it.
So, Rob?
We're fighting each other. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so this is my update on guidance for managing Yang modules and RFCs and IANA registries. It's a bit close for me. That's fine. I'll give a quick update before that. I'll just highlight again where we are with the versioning stuff. So, and I'm presenting on behalf of all the authors on this book. So this is like a reminder of all the versioning work that's gone on, where it is. So the solution overdraft, we said that that's going to disappear. We discussed that earlier. Then we have 3 that were post working group last call. We're going to status update with those. I think they're now all pretty much post IESG, so that's good. The one I'm talking about here, number 4, is guidance for IANA and the RFC editor. So that's this one, and we're hoping to get that one into working group last call soon. And then Yang packages I'll talk about next, and we've got schema comparison as well on here. And then the final ones that marked as IDs are the ones to do the Yang version selection. So that's been adopted work, but I expect it will change quite significantly, which is why it's sort of, I put it down at the bottom there. And then there's potential work for doing like IETF Yang packages. And at the moment, I think we would want help, ideally, with people helping with that if they're interested. So if you're interested in trying to define packages for the IETF Yang modules, then reach out to me or us, please. So on to the this guidelines of Yang modules for IANA and the RFC editor. This is the abstract. The aim is to provide guidance to both of those 2 bodies for managing Yang modules in general. And it initially came out of the fact we had discussions with them about the versioning work that was coming on, and what we're hoping that they would then do in terms of the publication process and checking that the version numbers are right and things like that. And they asked for some more formal guidance and things that they could follow over time. So that's the purpose of this draft. We met with Diana in IETF 124, and that's when we started doing this. They asked for this document. Then the RFC editor said, well, could you cover our stuff as well? So it increased its scope. And the goal is to move quite quickly because those other 3 documents I mentioned first, the Semver module version, not sure the file name does, we wanted those to have a reference to this document. So the idea is to get this one going quite quickly. So the aim was to be to publish or be in the queue the other 3 versioning drafts. I'm not quite sure we'll get there, but we might do. And then we've reduced some of the text in the other draft to now reference this document. So again, that's the encouragement to get this through the process quite quickly. The OA version was generated before Christmas last year, and that's mostly by an LLM. And then I did some edits and updates to it and things. And then we had the O1 version published for IETF 125 with more updates and cleanup and things like that, to fix the mistakes. Since the last IETF meeting, again, we've had feedback and reviews from various people and things, including from IANA and the RFC editor. Some of those have been incorporated, well, hopefully most of them have been incorporated from the last cycle. So we're in fairly good shape with the O3, but not quite there, but close. So the next steps is hopefully working with last call shortly after this meeting. So that's what I would like. I did hopefully that's with you. There's no open issues in the draft. But I did miss some minor updates from Chin's review. Can't see if Chin's in the room. So again, I've looked at his and I'll reply back to his email, but there's a few small comments and things to fold in there. I think there's an email from Amanda I might have missed again, so I need to check that I've incorporated those comments as well. I said it's still checking with Sandy. Actually, I sent her an email and had a reply back last night, and I responded back to her. So I think again, she's happy. IANA's happy with this version going forward, and so is Sandy. So I think the next version will be good from their perspective. And given they're the main audience for this document, I think that sort of says it's in quite good shape.
I'll note, while we don't have anyone from IANA coming to the mic, I see a couple of representatives in the back nodding their heads. We appreciate your contribution and your concurrence on this. Thank you.
And when we do the working group last call for this document, if IANA could participate in that as well, it'd be great.
So the proposed plan, Mahesh, do you want to speak now? Just very good interlude.
Mahesh, thank you, first of all, for helping put the guidance together. I'm sure it's helpful to both IANA and the RPC. I just had a question that I want to get a confirmation. I believe, Amanda, you had raised a question about identities versus enumerations. Did that ever get resolved? Okay, so she nods a yes. So other than that, I'm getting a confirmation from the RPC. I didn't myself read an email from her. You're saying essentially we are should be good to go for a working group last call.
Yes, the email came in, I think it was last night, and it came in just to me actually copying the RFC editor as well. So that hasn't gone to the list.
Okay.
But yes, effectively they've confirmed they're okay. They had some further questions, but I've clarified those. There might be some minor clarifications to the document, but nothing that I understand in terms of changing the process or the text in there. So I think it's just a matter of tweaking some bits and things and making sure it's clear.
Excellent.
So the proposed plan is to do a few small updates after this meeting, but they should only take me like a few hours or something to do, hopefully. I think we already heard from Sandy, the RPC, and also Iana that they're happy for this to go ahead. So the number 2 sort of be done. So then request working group last call on that next version and things.
Okay.
If that's okay. So any questions or comments from anyone? Okay.
Yeah, if you haven't read the document, please do so. If you have an objection, you do not need to wait for the working group last call. Bring it to the list immediately so we can get it addressed and then move this document towards submission to the ISG.
And I think it'd be good if we can get this one going through quite quickly. I think we should try and that'll help us.
So I just heard you commit to an update by the end of the day or the end of the session maybe, and then we'll do the last call by tomorrow.
I'm not sure I can do an update by the end of the session. That's quite tight. Yes. Okay.
Are we done?
And that's everything, I think.
Go to the next slides. Packages. Is it package okay?
It's
And pass slide control. Okay, we should go.
Brilliant. Thank you. So this is my update on Yang packages. And we are now at -09. I think it was 07 at the last IETF, and I published 8 and 9 just before this meeting. So, and 9 incorporated some suggestions from Joe, I think, at the end. So this is exactly the same slide as you've seen previously. I won't go over the same slide as before, but this is now talking about the Yang packages part, and you can see we're getting quite a long way down the list. Schema comparisons is coming up next, I think. So we are getting there. We're making progress. So recap about what Yang packages is. I've presented this quite a few times. It's almost like a hierarchical version of Yang library. So you can split it out, and they can sort of include different bits, coming different functionality. It's also designed to be more useful off the box and things like that. So a key part of the whole packages usage and solution is to allow these things to be defined off the device and then just referenced on the device. So rather than the existing flow where clients come and connect to the device and download a load of Yang modules and things, which they can still do, Yang library will still be there. The idea with packages is you can just pull down potentially just even the references to the packages, already know that you have the definitions for them, and either rebuild the schema locally or use pre-built schemas and things like that. So the aim here is to try and simplify that flow into the device. They're also useful in terms of like schema comparison and things, and hopefully when people like version sets of Yang modules together, which we're hoping that IETF might do, and an open config, again, you've got a construct that says, okay, I've got all these Yang modules together. I can version these and give them a description of what functionality they mean and apply. And you can also define within it like a set of, you can include deviations as you'd expect. You can include features, statements as well like that. So again, the idea is to define a schema. So the summary of where we are, the hope before the last IETF meeting was a stretch goal to be ready for working group last call before this meeting. And we haven't quite got there, but we've made a lot of updates to the document, a lot of progress. So there's some minor updates to the solution that hasn't really changed very much, a few tweaks and things like that. There's been a lot of updates to the doc. I said 48 Git commits there, and a lot of that is either adding examples at the end. There's still one set of examples need to be added, and then improving the text. So I was asking LLM to implement some of this, already had some code, and also to review the document for implementation. So it's found various either discrepancies or bits that aren't clear. So again, that's helped update the document and improve it. Various things, and fixing like nits and all sorts of things. So the document's much cleaner state. Resolved 13 issues that we had open before. There's another 15 issues that the document have been folded in, but just needs the authors to sort of meet and agree to close those. So that, and more reviews from the authors as well in terms of the changes and things. So there's 6 issues open or remaining. I think quite a few of them fairly small actually, and there's some nits and things to tidy up as well, and add some comments, but I think it's getting closer to being complete. One thing I would say that this version of the document has increased by 40 pages from the previous one. So it's gone from 70 to 110 pages, and it's mostly adding examples at the end, which is probably good. But again, I was using the LLM to help construct those examples. My question to anyone that reads or reviews the document is, has it become too verbose in terms of the examples at the end, or are they useful and it's fine? So that's the sort of feedback I think would be useful from the aspect of how the document's changed, plus just reviewing the overall solution. As it says here, I think now would be a really good time, if you haven't reviewed this document, to actually give it a review. And I think most of the stuff should expect to be addressed. There's just one section on examples of handling mount points that's missing at the end. So that's the only thing that really needs to be added. So the latest package tree diagram looks like this, and I've added in green the bits have been added in. So along with this description field, we added in a version description. So you can have a description describing what the Yang package is for, and then a version description sort of describing how it's changed if you wish to add that in, and that's optional. You'll see, and this is slightly strange, that the includes package list now is keyed by both name and version. And this allows you to include 2 different versions of the same package. And that's quite an odd thing you might want to do, but the way that Yang packages work is that you don't replace versions, you can't remove them, you basically add them together. You collect and have all the different package versions available. And we wanted to be able to update the metadata, like the locations of where you might find the package definitions. So that's why that's come in there. So it allows you, if you have a package that's included deep down the hierarchy, to say, update the metadata associated with, say, you can also find this package from my vendor site as well as where it's been originally published. We added in the new depends on. So this is something that I think Joe was asking about, and this is to do with when you've got like bug fix packages on a device. So the overall idea here, or the idea I have in my mind, is that a device for a given software release will advertise a base package of all the functionality. But if you then want to modify it and have some sort of bug fix hot fixes and things like that are then separate, then you can sort of package those separately and advertise those at the top level schema. So you get the base package plus any of these fixes, and you resolve those into one complete schema. But the problem that Joe was mentioning is that for those bug fix packages, they don't define the entire schema. They're just like small fragments of what's changed. And he was saying that it'd be useful to have this sort of reference back to how do you make the complete package. And that's what this depends on allows you to do. It allows those bug fix packages to say, I depend on this base package version, and hence I don't need to, but it's not included in the definition. So it allows you to build the scheme if you want to. And it's a relatively minor addition. And again, all of the things in here are sort of optional to implement. Under the mount points, and again, you'll see somewhere else in the schema, we've changed it from, maybe it's been added in, additional features here. So when you mount packages and when you define package schemas, you also can define the set of features that should be enabled as part of using that package set. So if you implement BGP, for example, there might be some optional features that you say, whenever you're implementing this package, you always have these features enabled. And hence you can include that in the package definition to say these are sort of mandatory features that any implementation must turn on or deviate them away if they're going to implement this package faithfully and correctly. And again, so when you're doing mounts, you have the same thing. You've got a schema down there. So again, it sort of folds in that you need to have this same ability to turn features on there. So that's been added in. Is my click still working? So the changes, and there's quite a lot of changes. So the significant changes between 07 and 09. It depends on, actually, I've just talked about that already. So I won't go over that one again. We tweaked the binding of how you map packages to Yang schema. So one of the key things was before is that the package definition on the device So these things exist both as files, like instance data documents, JSON files, and they also, on the device, they're advertised as part of just regular Yang data. There's a packages tree that has all the local package definitions that are available. And that was containing the locations of where you found those packages along with the package definition. But that differs from what you see in a file. The file doesn't tell you where to find itself. The references or location pointers are all external to that file. So we then aligned the Yang packages tree to match and marry up to what will you find in one of those files effectively. So again, make it easier to take that tree definition and to be able to generate your own file if you want to, instance data file, and wrap it. And then that means obviously that when you reference these packages, you also include the locations of where to find them, because you've now moved that information. So everywhere that you'd expect a package to be referenced, you'd expect to say this is where you need to find it from, which is a list of places. Additional features, I sort of mentioned those. I think that's changed. We had a list of where, when we're listing these features before for the schema, it would list all of the features enabled. And we changed that to just listing the additional features enabled on top of what's already defined by those packages. And that was done, A, to make that list smaller, and also to effectively mean that you can't give wrong information, because you can't say this feature is enabled by the package and yet you then don't declare it at that point. Lou, do you want to?
Yeah, just looking through the diffs, I think you added a version as an index, and I thought it would be good to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it was there, not the. Or, I thought it would be good to for you to talk about that for a moment.
I did. I can.
Oh, then I apologize. I spaced out.
Yeah. So I'll just recap.
No, don't. Just move on.
Okay, fine. Yes, so that's two of the bigger changes I pulled out. The rest of these aren't so significant, so I asked again an LLM to summarize all the changes and things, and this is just a summary of what the significant changes are. I'll talk through them briefly, but not in much detail because it's not worth it. So we sort of fixed up like the package identity reference handling. I've just described that in fact. The includes package and mount package now keyed by name and version that I described is so you can update the metadata, which it sort of says there. The package resolution has been rewritten to be clearer and more correct and things like that. So again, that's through the review process and things. We've tweaked the definition of location of where you find packages to say that the first entry in that list is like the canonical location of where to find it. And again, we've tweaked the merge algorithm of the locations to make sure that you always keep that first. So if it is an IETF package, for example, I would imagine these might be published by ANA, these package definitions, or IANA registry. I would expect that to be first. And so if a vendor puts other locations on, they can, but they keep the canonical one first. Like mandatory features have been renamed to enable feature. I've talked a little bit about how that's changed. And then the amount of package behavior I think some of this was described in the last IETF meeting as well. But I think we got to a final point where we're happy with what we have in terms of adding additional features and also be able to manage the schemas that are mounted as well. Some more ones. The package instance data files have been made much stricter in terms of what fields you have to populate in that instance data header. And that's so that you can generate these things more easily. So there's less variation between the two. And again, the idea again is you take one of these package definitions in Yang off the device, you can generate the instance data file. I now define a Yang, this will be confused to explain, a Yang package instance data schema to be used for instance data documents. So in an instance data document, you say what the schema is for that instance data document. And the instance data document has a choice statement that allows like a simple list or a Yang library reference. And now it also allows a reference to Yang packages as well. So we augment that. And again, so this is the definition that fits that all together. Update the security considerations. And actually I need to chat to Mahesh and Med about that as well. Added in the operational considerations section, and we tweaked the IANA registrations and things. I think that was some feedback from the IANA, so we've incorporated that. And the appendix examples have been expanded and fixed a lot of those and things like that. So that's all good. A few things that we've removed. So it used to be that the names of packages had hyphen package in them. I think one of Joe's suggestions was that we define a file name type .ypkg file, and hence then you don't need that in the name, so that cleans those up as well. The older Yang library supported feature complete list. Yes, so this is about only using additional features rather than reporting them all. I'm not sure that's an old Yang library thing, but that's fine. I think these other things are fine. The placeholder hotfix appendix text, oh, fine. I don't think that's a significant removal. So that's okay. The minor changes, I won't go through these. So again, there's a load of other minor stuff and things. Have a look at the slides, or have a look at the documents. I don't think that we need to discuss these. They're on the slides if you want. So what's left to do? I said the mount point examples is the last set of examples to be added in. Close the remaining 6 issues. I think they're all relatively minor, but sometimes these things turn out to be. Oh, the one key one actually is that the document currently has a dependency on the YPath thing. So that's the one thing that might trap us. That ideally we don't really want to redefine it in this document. It'd be better to have a reference. So, but we can work that out. And I think that's okay. I think the other key thing that again Joe's mentioned is like having the open source compiler to support this. I have some compiler code already. It's not complete. I hope that I can open source it under Cisco. I need to get through the hoops and things to do that, but that is my plan. But that tooling needs to be effectively finished, I think, because I think we'll have a reference like an implementation that people can use at the point that we publish this. So that's coming. And then I expect in the process of doing that, I'll get more AI reviews and things and clarification of the document. So that all makes it better and makes it easier through the latest part of this process. Further reviews from the authors and things like that. I've driven quite a lot of these changes, so getting those more reviews through. Reviews from the working group, always welcome. I might have mentioned earlier on, good time to review if you haven't. And then it says, hopefully working group last call by IETF 127. I think actually the 2 things that are going to hold this is going to be the YPath dependency, which might not stop the working group last call, but might stop it from being published, and making sure that the tooling is sort of there and available. And I think that's everything I've got to say. This is where we're meeting, our still regular meeting on Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Eastern time. We don't necessarily meet absolutely every week, but we do for most of them. And that's just the stuff we're doing. So people are welcome to join those calls. We should probably send out another reminder to the list. I need to ask Jason to do that, or we can do that, or somebody can do that. Reminder in case people want to come along to those, but we're pretty much closed on this stuff, getting close to the end. Any questions or comments? No.
Awesome. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Michal? Sounds like.
Actually, it's Miguel.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't show up at NETMOD either.
Interesting. So the presenter is not online, and I haven't seen him in the room,
He was registered to be in person,
and he's not.
and I haven't seen him all week.
One of the co-authors. Yeah. But he's not. So maybe we'll give him a little time and he'll show up. And if not, think about who else wants to present that. Right. So why don't we skip him until the end of the drafts, the working group drafts. So just a couple of slides below, a couple slots below. And so he'll go after Kent, or Joe, thank you, you'll go after Kent. So Rob, you're back. So Yang next.
No rest for the wicked. Okay.
Sorry, I just passed that.
Hello, working group again. Yang next agreement. So this is part of the work that Kent's been driving in terms of the next version of Yang. So he's done a lot of the work, and he'll talk about this in terms of getting a base draft updated and going. a base draft updating going for that, and in terms of what the tooling or process for putting updates into that document is. So he's been doing that sort of thing. But as part of that process, there's a lot of issues, and I wanted to try and specify or get some more concrete agreement from or consensus from the worker as to what this sort of update should look like. And hence I wrote this document just in the middle of the last IETF meeting. It was too late to sort of get it on the agenda to publish, but it has been adopted since. Abstract, purpose of this document is to discuss and hopefully find agreement on the scope and shape of the next version of Yang. So this is not a fait complete. This is my initial stab at where I think these issues are, which ones should be included and not. I didn't spend that much time doing it.
Yep.
That's all good. Mentioned this, Kent's leading the new version of Yang, great, yay. The process has been updated, that yay is good. There's 150 issues, at least on the issue tracker. I think some of those are closed. Some of them were closed when we had a different way of evaluating these. There's probably some more. I didn't actually check the exact number. We probably only want to implement a subset of these for the next version of Yang, and we need to agree what a subset is. There's also some of these issues that we may want to defer to a later release, potentially, like these things are too big or not in scope. And there's some that we may want to close and say, we don't ever do those. And we looked at those. And previously, there was an effort to classify these across 3 different axes, how important it was, what level of complexity it was, low, medium, high, and whether it was backwards compatible or not. And then I think that initial review, if it wasn't backwards compatible, and that's a slightly nebulous definition of what backwards compatible means, I think, for these things, then those issues were closed. Whereas actually, I think in the subsequent years since that process, some of the issues were effectively, I think, would now fall in the scope of Yang 2 potentially, because we are proposing, or I think it's going to be proposed that could be a non-backwards compatible breaking release, because it would take some things away. But for me, that didn't answer the key question as to whether we should include them. So when I looked at these issues, I had some of that in my mind, but also is like, do I think the next version of Yang should include this change or potentially include this change? Because sometimes those issues, the description is fairly vague, and until you understand what the solution is going to be for that particular change, then you can't really decide whether that makes sense to include in the language. But certainly, should we consider this? And the thing that for me, that I'm keen to avoid is like a second system syndrome where everything gets thrown in and Yang 2 becomes a language that's twice as size, twice as complex. I think that would be a mistake. And if you look at, say, XPath 1.0 is really, or 1.0, 1.1, I can't remember. The first version of XPath is really small, and then the next version has exploded, and the third version is even bigger. And I think that was why, like in discussions 10 years ago, like, do we move to a new version of XPath? It's like, well, that's going to have a big burden on vendors or implementers to implement a much larger language. So I think we need to be careful there. So as I said, I classified them. This was the classification I used. I have like the proposed changes that should be made to Yang 2. So these ones I think should be included. I was fairly strong on these. And I split these into clarifications, minor enhancements, and larger improvements. Then I had some proposed issues that we should consider. So ones that I said that I'm not sure. Maybe these should go in the next version of Yang. Maybe they shouldn't. I think we should evaluate those. I then had a list of open issues that I said that I think these ones shouldn't go in. So I was leaning away from them, like, don't put these into the next version of Yang, but maybe down the line, they should be something we should consider. And then finally, I had a list of issues that I thought we should just close and say, look, at the moment, there's no intention to ever implement this. So we should close. It doesn't mean it can't be reopened in future, but our current consensus or understanding is this is not a change we think should be made to Yang. And all these are tracked on GitHub. I should have had the link to the GitHub issues tracker, Yang Next issues. I've got links to particular issues to them, but that should be on there. What else should this draft do? So I think it's important for the working group to come to consensus as to what's the broad direction of Yang 2, as in, is it backwards compatible or not? Is it like a Yang 1.2 or 2.0? And do we allow small backwards incompatible changes? Is it a small update to the language, or is it a medium size? Was it large? As in, what's the scope of what we're trying to build here? And I think we need to try and understand what that should be in terms of the size of this, and not to completely fix it, but just know the direction that we're going. And my proposal here, in terms of what I've classified, is that it should be like a smaller update to the language. Ahmed, do you want to come and speak now? Okay, fine. So in terms of what I came up with, so I wanted to allow non-backwards compatible changes because I want to remove some things, take away some things out of Yang. And then I had issues like clean up the base spec. This is the sort of thing that Kent's been driving, take XML out, take the netconf dependencies out, all that sort of stuff to make the document in better shape. I think we should do all those. They're right, they're good. I said we should apply all the clarifications. So 13 issues say, clarify this, clarify that. So I think by and large, those should go in, or we should evaluate if those clarifications are necessary. Some of them it may be that when we try and clarify them, we find there's not consensus as to what a clarification is. Well, that's a different issue. But if there's consensus, we understand what the clarification is, and we agree the document's unclear, we'll fix those. I had some things we should deprecate and remove, so a couple of issues there. And also fold in some of the existing extensions and updates, like the structure extension, the Yang versioning things, tie those into the document, which doesn't mean necessarily to move all the text over, but make Yang 2.0 sort of require these things rather than being extensions. And then I had a long list, 25 potential enhancements to the language, which I characterized into minor and larger ones, so about half of each as well. So now's a good time. Brilliant.
Ahmed Al-Hassani, Swisscom. So I really appreciate the work you have done. It's massive to go over all these issues and try to make sense out of them. One of the things I would like to see, which is probably re-emphasizes the same point you're raising in the slide, is we need to define the purpose and the scope for the next language.
Yep.
For example, like a simple example, when I looked back in the old discussions for adding float, not adding float, there was like a clear statement from the working group. This is a configuration language. You don't configure floating points,
yep,
for example, right? And this is no longer the case, as we see. It evolved. The use cases evolved. So we really need to understand what's the purpose of the language, what we are aiming for, where we want to grow, where we think we should like, okay, this is not part of the language. In the early days, configuration was the target, and anything outside was excluded out, which is good at the time. Now things changed. The second thing is we have to have some kind of precision and correctness on top of this to make sure that what we propose is accurate and precise and will not lead to some misconfiguration in the devices, right? Because now this is being used to configure many networks, and if the language is not precise enough to describe what you want, it might lead to some catastrophic events. So these are two things I want to add. Thanks.
Yeah, it's great, always. That makes sense.
Rashad Rahman. So a couple of things. I agree with what you said as to, I don't want Yang Next to become a kitchen sink of new features. So basically repeating what Ahmed was saying. On the 2.0 and not 1.2, so if you look at between 1 and 1.1, there's a small number of backwards incompatible changes made, if I remember. When we decided 2.2, my concern was always that that meant that we're going to do a large number of backwards incompatible. I don't think that's the case, but that's the impression it gives, in my opinion. So
yes.
Is there, maybe a question to you and Kent, is there any way this could come back to Yang 1.2 after we've gone through all the issues?
The document was adopted as the Yang 2 document. I'm not sure if we want to reopen that discussion.
But the repo is called Yang Next.
No,
So,
it's two repos. There's
Right. But the one he has with the issue tracker is called Yang Next.
yeah.
I think we shouldn't get caught up in this. Let's not get caught up on it. Let's do the technical work, and we can always change the name at the last minute if we want to. Let's just focus on the work and then worry about naming at the end.
Yep.
Maria from BERT, looking at the sheer amount of the issues, it looks like it's gonna take 5 more years. to get Yang 2 or whatever else. And I'm asking a question, does it make any sense to propose parts of the issues which are more painful and like more pressing as separate drafts, or is it expected to get all of these things postponed into the Yang 2? Because, for example, with the 3 different codings now emerging, the problem of transcoding is getting quite hard. So whether it's an idea worth drafting and pushing before Yang 2, or whether we should wait with it and deal with the consequences that there would be some incompatibilities.
I think that's an interesting question. I think my fear is that even if you try and take a smaller set of key pressing issues, that it'll still take quite a long time to get consensus. So I don't know. I do feel about what the timeline should be on this. And again, I think that's part of the agreement of the scope of it, is that if we're saying we want it to be shorter and quicker, I think that says you do less stuff in it. So yes, and I don't think I think the one thing to be aware of is I don't think we can publish a Yang 1.2 and then a Yang 2 a year later. I think that actually, because of the industry, that probably publishing a new version of Yang every 5 years or something is about the right cadence. So that's the one thing I'd say that's against just doing a smaller release, because it's not the same as software release. I think that tooling will have to change to pick these up, and it takes time to roll this through the industry and time for like the modules to be updated to use this stuff. So I think I'm feeling like I think we should just try and do one release, and we should try and maybe scope it to be smaller if that's more important to get these things sooner.
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, the pressing issues could be pushed separately while the work on the big draft is moving on.
Yeah, and actually, that's the other thing that's a good point, is that Yang has extension mechanisms. And as part of that, so the really big things that we do, I suggest that doing those as extensions, like the Yang versioning work, is the right choice. I think some of that is good. And then they can be folded in as like, yes, now this new version of Yang says this extension is like mandatory. Everyone does this.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic. And as a working group, we have not said that we're not going to do other work. You know, we're not saying everything has to stop waiting for Yang 2. And we are contribution driven. If you have something that you'd like to bring forward, you know, like the versioning work, we can consider it. But as a group, we have to agree to do the work. And as a group, we may say, yes, this is worth doing. Or we may, as a group, say, let's wait for Yang 2. Or Yang next.
After this question, I might then move on to, I've got a couple more slides I definitely want to cover. There's a load of extra stuff, backup stuff, but I think it'll be good to cover in terms of the next process bit. But yes.
Wojciech Vlimek, minor comment. If you want to include the packages as a mandatory dependencies, wouldn't version 2 be more appropriate?
Maybe. I don't know. And I'm not sure yet whether packages is definitely going to be a dependency of Yang 2 or not, or whether packages is too new for that. So I don't know yet. I think this is sort of thing is we need to work out what's in the next version of language, and then we choose the number at the end. I don't think we should get, we can get bike shed on the version number very quickly.
Yeah. Personally, I don't think it's a good idea to take work that is in flight and we've been doing for a while and say, oh, now that we've started the Yang 2 discussion, we're going to table that work.
Oh, no.
I think that it would be a bad precedent for the group. Speaking as both a contributor and the chair. Now, that said, as chair, I follow the group. So if everyone in the group disagrees with me, even though I'm chair, the group wins. So
I hope that wasn't a suggestion. Maybe I misunderstood. But Joe.
Now, Michael is here, so I wouldn't have been able to say this later. One thing that he pointed out to me as part of the Yang versioning work is actually the move from Yang 1 to 1.1 is non-backwards compatible by definition. So I guess I'm saying, in short, I support the 2.0 since it doesn't seem like it matters much at the version level of the language.
Yeah, it's just naming. Okay, so this is the next slide, I think. Yeah, fine. This is the one I wanted to definitely cover. So what the plan I propose, I haven't discussed this with the chairs, probably should have beforehand. We can discuss it now. So the aim of the draft is just to get consensus. I don't think we ever plan to publish this document. It's a working document to try and help the working group come to consensus. So don't publish it. It's just a starting point. This is just my views. It's been adopted as a method to go forward, not that what's in there currently and in those particular categories is correct. It's just like we should try and do some classification and specification and agreement, consensus on what it is going to be. My expectation is that mostly we'll track these issues through GitHub as we are today. So we'll carry on doing that. And then I will update the document or kindly LLM will update the document and publish it for the IETF meeting so people can see what the issues are and to summarize them. Things like that. Sorry. And then yes, so use GitHub issues and have some more labels. And then the plan is to have like regular meetings, propose like a 2 weeks cadence for having these meetings to discuss and get consensus on the issues. And then what I propose is if there's strong consensus that some things are going into Yang 2.0, like the restructuring stuff or the clarifications, we should do the clarifications, then there's no reason why we have to wait for this work to complete before we do changes to the Yang 2.0. If the consensus on as to whether we include a change is weaker, then maybe someone needs to write it up a bit more and maybe we need to hold off merging until we get to like proper consensus. So we need to figure that out in the process. So, but I think a lot of these things, people will just say, yes, we should do this, obviously, and then it's fine and it's clear. Where if there's some sort of disagreement or consensus is more rough, then I think we need to be more careful about folding those things in. I may enact some tooling to help evaluate consensus on the issues. So I asked an LLM, again, you can see my fan, to generate like some interactive web pages for discussing these issues and tracking consensus, allowing actually people to vote and to see what people's votes are. Now, the Mahesh may like, oh, it's horrible. You're not allowed to do voting in IETF, but that's not, in my mind, as part of the consensus call. It's about the process of trying to evaluate and see where the consensus lies. I will see if people are interested in doing that and we don't have to use it. But the aim is for like more efficient than using the Meet Echo show of hands tool. I can show it to you afterwards because it allows you to hopefully see people's views more quickly than doing a show of hands for every single one of these 150 issues and all the discussions and things. So that's the aim.
Yeah, I'll point out that authors, and particularly editors, have a lot of flexibility in how they judge consensus on the document.
Yeah.
And whatever process you take is great, and we'll bring it here and confirm the consensus.
Yes.
So you have a lot of flexibility on how you want to run the document.
Okay, fine. And we can see if it works, and if it doesn't, then we can go and use different methods and things like that. But that was the idea.
Mahesh, I was when the document was initially submitted, it sounded more like a suggestion. This is how we could do things. And I think if I get the sense now, we moved to a sense where Yang 2 is saying that we need to make, we are kind of dependent on this particular document. Maybe my sense is wrong. Maybe Ken can correct me. So my question really is, again, from a process perspective, are we saying we have to agree on these set of issues, whether they need to go in, they need to be closed, they are folded in before we make the decision, or is this document still going to remain as a kind of a guidance? I'm a little confused as to what the proposal is really.
Can I answer first and then I'll let Kent? So my thought of this is it's a living document that lives alongside the updates to Yang 2.0. So as we are confirming what's going in, and it will change because some issues people will work on and get more understanding, and some more issues might come in, and those sorts of priorities may change at the time. We can be updating Yang 2.0, Yang 2 at the same time. I don't think this should be happening before and then we do Yang 2. I think we could do these two things in parallel. But I see it as a way of trying to track those issues, make more sense of them, get consensus, and to let the working group know what's being agreed, what's in scope. And it's a living document in that sense until we finish Yang 2 and then we kill it, delete it.
Yep, I agree. And furthermore, to add to that, the Yang Next issue tracker will be the source of truth. So as this document is being updated, the hope is to actually update those issues to capture what is the current feeling on issue-by-issue basis.
Okay.
Additionally, from a process standpoint, one of the things that has hurt many pieces of large work is having to come back and have the same discussion over and over again. So for me, capturing that we've had the discussion and what the results of the discussion is really important and a really helpful thing to speed the work along. Now, that's not to say that we can't discuss an issue that we decided on, let's say a year goes by and we say, oh, we've learned some new things. Let's revisit the discussion. That's okay. But having the same conversation over and over again is not. And from my standpoint, that's one of the big wins of this document or this work.
I'm out of time, and there's no more questions.
It's a significant enough thing. We can steal time if you have more you want to talk about.
Well, all I'll say is I don't think we should talk about them now. The backup slides have proposals. So in there, if there was time, I was going to do consensus checks in the room, but I'm not sure. I don't think we should rush this now.
I agree. This might be a good candidate for an interim. And we've used interims before when we've had good and used them to really help move the process along. We should think about that.
Yes.
Maybe after the summer, though.
Yes.
Not in August. And with that, we have a couple of presentations by Kent.
I'm just going to get it set up for you. Okay, pass slide control. Okay, good morning, everybody. I feel like I'm going to do a hot RFC topic, lightning talk. I originally allocated 15 minutes for 2 presentations. I'm going to squeeze it to 5. All right, so the Yang 2 document has been adopted, which is an incredible milestone all of its own. The current status is that the apply errata branch was merged, and as well as the make baseline branch. So all this means is that all the verified and hold for document update errata have been merged or applied, and as Rob mentioned, the XML and .conf specific bits have been removed. The document is now in great shape to start accepting pull requests. So anyone who has a GitHub account can try to make a pull request. If it's one of these obvious things that we want to do, as Rob just mentioned, then it could get merged quickly. But if it's one of the things that we're still concerned, then we'll probably go through a lengthy discussion process. How's the process going? So I discussed last time the idea of having a pool of code owners to self-volunteer to review PRs, that a PR could be merged after 3 such approvals. Current result is that the reviews didn't come quickly. For both of the 2 previously mentioned PRs, we received 2 explicit approvals and there was 1 implicit approval. I had to force merge those PRs, but deemed it okay since the edits were mechanical in nature. The takeaway is that we may need to schedule some regular meetings to review PRs. Possibly that would be a good thing anyway. Next steps is that we'll wait for the PRs to be submitted, reviewing them in turn. Many PRs would likely will be gated by the Yang Next Agreement document. And that said, there's a number of obvious items that can be worked on now.
Any comments, questions?
So I forget whether we discussed this, but how do you intend to cross-reference? I mean, there's Rob's doc, there's the issues in GitHub. I mean, if I come with a PR, I mean, you need to know some minimum information, what issue it is in the GitHub tracker and stuff like that, right? So I think you should
when you open up when you create a PR, there's a PR template,
Okay.
and it automatically initializes with sections. The first section says identify which issues it closes,
Okay.
and you can close issues in the other repos in the other repo, and it shows you the syntax for doing that.
Okay. And then how do we check Rob's doc? Is that in the workflow or?
Check what?
Well,
Update Rob's.
Oh, Rob's doc.
yeah.
I could add that to the template as well.
So this bit I haven't thought about. I think that probably we want a build script that automatically updates that document. So like as these issues get updated and things, we just regenerate new versions internally and we publish them for each IETF. So that's, and I think the tooling can do that sort of thing.
Good.
This presentation is even faster. Again, the document's been adopted. It's a good milestone. Current status is there was no updates since IETF 125. We just simply renamed the document for the adoption. Next steps are to update the document as needed to reflect changes in the Yang2 draft, and such as, for instance, removing the NEXML node. I don't know if there will be any other updates to this document other than removing the NEXML node, but we'll hold this document open and then progress it with the Yang2 document together. So there'll be plenty of time to discuss if there's a need to make any other changes to this document. Yes.
So, Ahmed, so for the XML document, is the purpose of it to redefine what's in Yang or just to focus on the encoding?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
For the XML document, the Yang encoding of XML, what's the purpose of that document? Is it redefining what is in Yang or just the encoding only?
It's not redefining it. It is moving where is the definition normatively defined.
Okay.
So that becomes the normative definition, kind of like how RFC 7951 does the normative definition for JSON encoding.
Yeah.
And then in the Yang2 document, there are still XML examples, but they are truly just examples.
Right.
And what I've done, wherever there's an XML example, there's a JSON example as well right next to it. So
that's great. So for the current version of the document, at least for the any data, it's kind of redefine it again in a weaker language than 7950. So we'd like to please to take a look at this and make sure that this document doesn't add confusion on how the containers is defined there.
Okay,
thanks.
You have another?
Maria from BERT again. I'm considering that we are expecting to remove the NXML thing and probably more other. It looks like we should also update 7951, and we should probably look at updating Yang CBOR. And with that, I am thinking whether it wouldn't be a good idea to have all those 4 drafts in the same repository and actually check that one pull request not only changes one document, but does the change in all 4 of them if it applies. Because if we don't do this, I'm quite expecting discrepancies. I don't know whether it's a good process, but I'm looking for the potential problems before actually happening.
I think actually we might not need to do that because those encodings still need to support the older versions of Yang. So they still need to have the definition of any XML, I think, in them. I'm not sure about this one. This one might be exception because you're publishing it later. The other ones, I don't think they need to change.
Okay. Right. I mean, there could be a number of documents that will have, collateral impact. Rob mentioned earlier this morning about NMDA, and if there'd be a need or desire to update the NMDA document as well. I think that's orthogonal work to this, and it doesn't need to be impacted at this time, but at some point the working group should think about maybe rolling in the factory defaults and the system data stores into the NMDA document.
Alex DT. So coming back to the question from Maria. So the plan here is to work on XML and JSON and CBOR later, or what's the plan there? Or how do we deal with JSON encoding for Yang 2?
Well, I think Rob mentioned before, the actual current RFC 7951 is accurate. Just because Yang 2 removes any XML doesn't mean that 7951 is wrong.
Rob Wilton, I was going to say I don't think there's any change to those documents, but I suspect there might be. So if we add in, for example, float or double, which I think is one of the things I would like to see go into the language, then there may be minor updates to those documents. But I think that I'm not expecting big changes to the encodings for Yang 2. I think it's going to be more about other parts of the language. Is my gut instincts here.
Agreed. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go back to the skipped Yang schema comparison presentation.
So hello, Michal Vasco here from CESNET. Yes, so first, sorry for being late. Yeah, it's my planning plus the train was late that I
Glad you made it.
So, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I'll go quickly over the changes since the last IETF in the schema comparison draft. Yeah, so first some background of this work. The goal here is to define an algorithm for comparing two revisions of a Yang module, in the sense that the additional goal is also to define or to generate an explicit list of all the changes between these two modules, and also to classify every change as an editorial, backwards compatible, or non-backwards compatible. Currently, there's one standard Yang module, which is actually quite small and includes only a few extensions that allow for precise classification of certain changes of statements that are impossible or like next to impossible to classify automatically by tooling. So it allows for the authors of the Yang modules to add this information if they want to. Then there's the other large normative Yang module, which defines the exact algorithm output in the form of Yang data tree. And all of this work is in sync with the Yang semantic versioning team and the whole work. And the idea is to use all this information then to suggest or check the semantic versions of the Yang modules, essentially. The specific changes that occurred, we have added editorial change support, which was not there initially because the current RFCs are not exactly clear on what an editorial change is. But yeah, I think we cleared all that. So now it's supported. Then also the text explicitly defines, not in completely exact terms, but it's a definition, at least, of an editorial, of a backwards compatible, and also of a non-backwards compatible change. Yeah, and the Yang modules were split. Before, yeah, or like the state during IETF 125 was that there was a single large Yang module, but yeah, now it's split into two Yang modules, with only the small one being standardized, or like yeah, the then also example was added to better illustrate the algorithm output, which can be quite convoluted. And there were also some improvements in the wording of the text of the draft. Now, yeah, regarding tooling, the main implementation it was done in LibYang, and yeah, it pretty much follows all the changes in the draft. So yeah, it's like anyone can try it if they want to, and it generates the full algorithm output. Then there's Yang, then that Joe Clark worked on, and it detects all the changes in the Yang modules, but it does not generate the full algorithm output, but it suggests the Yang somewhere, yeah, for the new revision of the Yang module. Yeah, naturally, the idea or the goal is definitely for all the tools, ideally, to classify all the changes in the statements in the same way, which is currently not the case yet fully. There are some corner cases that we are still working on, but yeah, when the draft is finished, it will definitely be the same. Yeah, so what next with this draft? Yeah, the idea was to have the other members, except for Joe Clark, to at least briefly look at this document and provide some feedback. And yeah, after that, unless some other someone else comes with their reviews, it may be ready for the last call. I hope.
Just to be clear, do you need another version or do you think this version is ready?
Well, I think this version is ready pretty much. Or
Do we wait for you to do another version or should we move forward with a last call?
it's not yet in the last call. So,
No,
but okay, yeah, sorry, I don't exactly understand the process. Maybe.
Are you planning to do another version at this point or are you done with planned changes?
With the draft, you mean?
Correct.
In the draft, I'm done with the change.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I've got on my queue of things to review. This is one of the other authors of this document. So I will review shortly after this meeting, and then maybe based on that might be a good indication as to whether we think it's done.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is everyone in the room, feel free to do a pre-read for before working group last call, so you don't have to wait for working group last call to make comments. We should expect one more version, and on that version, we will do a last call.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to make one other comment. So thank you for coming and presenting. And sorry for your train issues and things, absolutely fine. I was just going to say, on the first slide, you said we have a normative output module. I can't remember what we came to a conclusion with this. So effectively, it defines a Yang model of how you could, how tooling could generate the output. I think we weren't saying that you had to follow this, but it was like, here's an example of what you can do. So I think it's just a question of whether people think that having that as an informative thing or actually a strict output of how we format the data, I think would be an interesting discussion. I don't have a strong view either way.
Just a clarification. When you said it's in libyang implemented, is it in YangLint already? So can we review the output of YangLint?
Yes, and it's mentioned in the draft exactly how you can try it. So feel free to. Yeah, thanks.
All right, well, thank you so much. We're going to move on to the next.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, so Kent Watson presenting on behalf of the
So
authors.
just to be clear, we're moving now from working group documents to individual documents. We will be doing time on these.
Thank you. Pass slide clicker control.
Oh, sorry, I thought I did. Yeah, but now.
Okay, perfect. So quick recap, we've been working on this for a long time. The 03 update at a very high level view, the diff itself isn't huge, but it's everywhere. There were many small tweaks and a few big tweaks. Big tweaks include improving section 3, overhauling examples, updating Appendix A, and updating the authors, editors, and contributors section. By the way, I'm presenting because I'm now an author, co-author. Rob Wills felt like he didn't have time for it anymore, and the authors asked if I could help them out. Work remaining, as discussed there's a number of items, or 3 items that will be discussed in upcoming slides. And but before 127, I hope to have reviewed all the requirements for accuracy. In the appendix, there's a requirements matrix, and there was an issue found there, which I'll mention in the upcoming slide. So that causes me to want to re-review all of them to ensure accuracy. Also, I'm thinking that we may want to have a third virtual interim to score the new template requirement issues added since the last virtual interim. I think about 10 new issues were added, and those should be reviewed. And also to reconsider the requirement section. Currently, section 3 in the document. I want to re-review that and maybe re-characterize it. So those are some changes I might want to make. Okay, so for the 3 issues I mentioned, the first, probably the most important, is that templates must be validated when defined. So this is as opposed to when they're applied, because when they're applied, then of course there's a commit which gets validated, the full validation. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about just when they're being defined and not yet applied. At IETF 125, there was consensus that early warning is goodness, and that best effort Yang validation would have to take place because, of course, the actual template itself may not have a mandatory leaf, even though you would think it should be there. It's actually allowed to not be there. And likewise, that any data is the appropriate Yang type for the content node. But questions remain for how implementations would do the validation, as a template may be an instance of data anywhere in the schema tree. One thought was to use the AnyData validation draft, which is currently expired, but there were some problems found with it. For instance, specifically, as just mentioned, we wouldn't actually want full validation. With the AnyData validation draft, I think it's leaning in towards trying to do full validation, but here we want to do sort of a template validation, which is a subset of full validation. Likewise, it seems unnecessarily heavy, involving Yang library. We don't really need something like Yang library to support this work. And it doesn't support validating inner nodes, which may be important here. So the proposal is to add a new leaf called schema path. Well, here it says Yang X path, but I'd love to use Y path if it becomes available to identify where the template is rooted in the schema tree. So you can kind of see the update of the tree diagram on the side there. Any comments, questions, concerns on this slide? No? Okay. Oh, there's one. Okay.
So just a clarification, as a co-author of the AnyData validation, the complete validation is not required by the AnyData. There are two options. You can choose whether you want to do complete or candidate validation. So these options are like open in the AnyData validation, right? So it's not only about complete. Just to clarify that point here.
In any case, it's more than needed for this work. The second item or second issue is actually no longer an issue. This, in fact, turns out to already been resolved. There was a mistake in the minutes for the virtual interim. The minutes, which were used by the draft, incorrectly show strongly in favor, while the actual show of hand polls show unanimous objection. So we thought that this was something that we had to work on, but now we don't have to work on it. So problem solved. And the third item is to enable non-NMDA servers to return the expanded data. The issue here is that the current draft defines that the template expansion is returned via get data from intended, but remains unspecified for servers not implementing NMDA. So how do we support the non-NMDA servers? The proposal is to define a new expand template flag for the get and get config RPCs, and likewise query parameter in RESTconf. This would be consistent with existing implementations. I'm familiar with a number of CLI. For instance, you can do show interfaces, pipe, display inheritance as an example, and so that would be reflected in basically passing a flag in those RPCs. Any comments, questions, concerns with this item?
Joe Clark, on the previous slide, a resounding meh from me. I would have said yes, so I would have raised my hand in support. I'm using a templating, a Yang-based templating system in a product, and I find the basic programmatic elements to be useful. Loops, basic loops and conditions are extremely useful. I get that that's added complexity, and I get that maybe that's for implementation, but I'm shocked that it's unanimous objection, since I'm pretty sure I would have raised my hand in support of this. I think when you actually start to use this, you find it's pretty useful.
And it could have been that the objection was not so much it's a bad idea, but we don't want to do it in the first go.
And I'm happy to be in the rough, but I think this is going to be useful.
Rob will tell on the next slide, please. So I think you asked, I don't think I have concerns with this approach. I did just wonder in my head, is another solution here is to say that if you're supporting this solution, you have to also support get data on whatever the name of the intended data store might be another choice, but I'm happy with where the direction you're going. It's just occurred to me that might be another choice.
Well, if it's a non-NMDA server, then they don't have an intended data store. I thought you were going to say, what happens for an NMDA server? Would it make sense for them to also support this fetching from running? And I would not think so, but it could be, and perhaps that's a product decision.
No, I mean, I thought the whole purpose of intended was that you therefore mitigates this, so you don't need to do that. But yeah, okay.
Rishad, so I haven't read the doc in a while, so when the client does a get with an MDA or get data, does it get back expanded config or non-expanded?
From intended, yes. If they do a get data on intended, it's expanded data, and the unexpanded templates are removed.
Is there any way for the client to get non-expanded back?
No.
Okay, because we do stuff like we do, what's the right, sanity checks that what we're pushing, and then we read the config back to make sure that nobody has done any changes. So if I understand what you're saying correctly, we would be pushing something, but what would be reading back would be different? Or did I misunderstand?
The clients interact with running, so they read and write running, and then running is merged with system to create intended. The templates are expanded in template in intended, but that's what NMDA says to do.
I'll read the doc a bit more, because I think that, if I understand correctly, that might be a bit of an issue for our use cases. Okay.
So James Going, just sort of agreeing with Rob really. I don't know that we need to provide this to a non-NMDA. You know, the whole intended and operational is NMDA only. Get data is really NMDA only. So feels like maybe this could be an NMDA only solution as well. And in terms of Rishad's question, then yeah, we would be able to read the unexpanded one back from running quite happily, and then compare it to the expanded version. But if I understand correctly, your proposal is to remove the unexpanded template in intended in the expanded version, which I agree with.
Well, that's correct, but it's not just my opinion. It was the consensus of the virtual interim.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, I did go look back at the notes. I don't see, unless I'm missing it, I don't see the decision that you say was here and Joe didn't remember. Just looking at the notes, it was, I believe, issue 8, and I don't see it in the minutes.
Which issue? I mean, which?
A couple slides back, the one on the programmatic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, we'd have to go to the show hand poll, but I don't have the data right here.
No,
that's fine. I just went back in the minutes trying to find it, and maybe I didn't.
Oh, did you follow the hyperlinks?
I went to the one on the website. So all I'm saying is that we should consider it still open for discussion. Mm-hmm. And of course, until we go to working group last call, they are.
As I said at the beginning, I found an issue. I am going to thoroughly re-review all of the show of hand results and ensure that the requirements matrix at the end of the document, the appendix, is correct. So significant effort has been extended to this effort already. The authors believe the current draft is a viable work in progress working group effort. Like Yang 2, we feel that the effort doesn't need to be complete in order to be adopted. Only an assurance that the requirements will be satisfied is needed. So we were wondering if it would be interesting to get a show of hands for adoption interest.
All right, I'm going to start 2 polls.
James, are you in queue?
If I can find there we go. This one should, I'm hoping is pretty quick. Is there anyone in the room online who objects to the work working group working on templates. We've had interims, we've had lots of discussions. I'm expecting this to be all no's, but it's always good to check. Excellent. And the second one is a pretty standard one, is what do people participating think about using this draft as it stands as the starting point for the work in this working group? Well, great. I think this poll shows that we have pretty good support. The most important thing to me here is that there's no objections. If, of course, we'd want to hear from the person or people who objected, maybe they are just reluctant to come to the mic, but no matter what, I think this shows pretty clear agreement that we have a good foundation for our work in this area. Thank you all. We're going to move to the next
Okay, thank you very much.
presenter. I think it's Rajesh who is going to be remote. Give us just a moment. I actually didn't confirm that Rajesh is online. Excellent. Give me a moment. I'll pass controls to you. I got it.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I couldn't make it to the end of this time, but let me just quickly go over the Yang enhancements to capture sub-tree replacements. I presented this in IETF 123 a year or so back. If you go to the next slide, please.
You should have the control.
Well, I did see it for a moment. It doesn't show up now. Let me try.
Just pass it on.
Yes. Now I do. Thank you. So just to recap the problem statement, the Yang models are, of course, evolving, and deprecated nodes often have replacement guidance. But today that guidance is usually out of band. It's prose, it's Excel sheets, it's literature that engineers have to read to understand in order for us to do or migrate to the next version of Yang, right? So it's not machine readable, and it requires manual migration. So this is the problem we faced at our work, but it is not. We were not the first to identify it. It's part of Yang Next. It was good to see a discussion on what we propose to do for Yang Next, but we're not entirely sure how soon this might be available. So what we're trying to propose here is Yang 1.1 extension that could achieve this. I just did a quick scrap of the Yang models Yang GitHub repo, just to look at what kind of deprecations are happening on real Yang files that are posted here. This is just for the last couple of years, and what I've actually done is to look at valid XPaths that then were deprecated in a subsequent version, and we have a fairly significant number of them. This is definitely a lower bound because there's way so much more Yang out there, and I've only taken a small sample from one of the reports. And again, I've not covered all the companies out there either. This is represented from some vendors. The solution itself is obviously authored more detailed in a more detailed manner on the draft, but it's essentially if you had an old leaf whose status was deprecated, is being deprecated in this version, we have an optional opt-in extension that we call as a deprecation info that should point you to the new node that has to now be the new leaf that has to be used now from this version. We handle different kinds of situations where it's a straightforward absolute new leaf When you have groupings, things are a little different. It's a relative path. One leaf could now map to multiple leaves. Multiple leaves could come down to one. All those scenarios, you could even have cases where you do not have a replacement for a leaf moving on from this version. So we had a good discussion in the last meeting. This is essentially what it is. And what we did since 1, 2, 3, and this is not an exhaustive list, I'll talk through some of them. We had, I think Kent had some questions about why would we handle it for both observations as well as deprecation. So now it's been renamed to just deprecation info. We will not have it for observations. Lou, you questions on making sure that the problem statement was very clearly defined. We did go around the room. We agreed there was consensus on the problem. Rashad, over email, had several questions about where these deprecation info is applicable to what kind of leaves. So we've made that both an ABNF and clarified where it's allowed, where it's not. Deepak had questions on using instance data, and Rom and Balance did clarify that this is a design time knowledge that will be useful to both machines and other tooling that could use it. Here at Cisco, we do have a prototype of the implementation, which we rely on heavily because we have to keep our network management systems in sync with changing Yang versions on the iOS XE and iOS XR releases, and as those change. Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe I should pause. There are a few questions I didn't notice that. Let me do I take questions right away?
Well,
you can choose whether you want to take it at the end or take it in line. You want to take it now?
Okay. I mean, I just have one more slide. I'll just wrap it up and then I can take all questions.
Balazs Lengyel.
Is that okay?
I think in Yang Next there was already a proposal to add a substatement to status. And I think this is where it belongs, to indicate, for example, what is the replacement. So I think that your proposal is good, just it should be a substatement under status, and it would be good to fold it into the Yang Next effort as well.
Okay, sure.
Sorry. Kent Watson as a contributor. I think it was RFC 123, you presented this work, and it was a string. Can you go back to slide number 5, please? It was a string. And at that time, I had suggested instead of it being just a string, it should be a structure of some sort. In the Yang Next issue that Andy Bierman filed, he shows that there's a description statement also, like why did it get deprecated? And there's other information that could be like when did it get deprecated? And in future, we might even have, well, for instance, like an XSLT that could actually do the migration step into the structure statement. I think these things are important, especially in the age of AI agentic work. We want to enable the tooling to be able to understand how to manage the devices better. Thank you.
Tufang from Huawei. So I don't think we should wait till the Yang Next. That would take a long time to be published. I think it's a real problem. We have already implemented this in our products. So I support the adoption of this.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, the queue's locked.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were ahead of time.
Please go on.
Yes, so I hear all your points. I mean, we just want to limit it to not move to the semantics part of the migration, but to the syntax part. So we have an ABNF, yes. So just want to summarize here. I think the problem is real, as we just acknowledged. The proposal is narrow, and it's deployable with the Yang 1.1. And more than happy to work with the working group to fine tune and make this an acceptable proposal.
So I've started a poll asking the working group if we think we should be working on this topic. I didn't introduce the word now, but I hope that's implied. But I should have said, should we be working on it now as opposed to waiting for Yang Next? Give it just a moment more. Again, that shows, I think, some pretty good support and no objections. Now we'll move on to whether or not this document is a good starting point. So basically, are we interested in adopting this document? While we continue the poll, we have one person who has said no. Would they mind joining the queue and giving us the rationale?
That person would be me as a contributor. Well, as mentioned, I mean, I do support the work. I said yes in the previous poll question, but I don't think it should be just a string. And since I made the same statement 2 IETFs ago and it hasn't progressed, I don't understand why we should progress the document at this state.
You don't think we can fix that as part of normal working group processing?
We could.
Okay.
But I haven't heard back from the author.
Well, that's the interesting thing is that when it's an individual document, the individual controls the content. But as soon as it becomes a working group document, we control the content. So the only way to enforce changing it is to make it a working group document. All right, so I think we show some pretty good support. I would expect that as part of the adoption call, you're going to get a comment, at least from one person, on a change that they would like to see made during working group processing, which I think is quite reasonable. Okay, go ahead.
I didn't want to say that I don't support this for now. I'm just interested that this is something that is going on now, but it would also be good in Yang Next. How will we start a new issue for Yang Next on this?
It's already an issue in Yang Next.
Okay.
And of course, anything that if we're going to remove something as part of Yang Next, that will be subject to, I think, significant discussion.
I think for anything that new we are doing today, it's a decision that will it stay as a separate draft or will it be folded into Yang Next? For example, templates, will it become part of Yang 2 or will it stay separate?
I think that's great discussion for Yang Next, and I'm really appreciative that we have energy for it. With that, we're going to move on to the next presenter. I think that's Don. And thank you very much, Rajesh.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Don Fedek. Do I have the clicker? This is a long story, but we'll go fast. A long time ago, people decided they were going to do Yang, and I came into the story a long time after that, and I was taught to validate Yang here, so I took it to the IEEE, and I asked people, why do we have multiple formats of MAC addresses? And it turned out we had these 2 formats, and we said, wow, we should fix that. And a lot of time passed, and we didn't do anything. So the situation was that one group defined them with colons and one group defined with dashes, and we had uppercase and lowercase. And that causes problems if you want to use them as indexes somewhere or if you want to compare them. And everybody agreed that there was a problem, but nobody agreed on the solution. And I know it's probably part of Yang Next. But listening to it again last meeting when I was attending, I thought, you know, is there something we could do now? And we came up with, you know, if we could just normalize the format and compare it. And it turns out that with a small extension that works in Yang now, you can at least express it. It doesn't do anything, but it passes Yang validation, and nobody has to change anything. It implies that the values are treated the way we would like them to be treated. And with a small update, that in the future, hopefully the code would come along and it would actually be able to validate it. You could validate it now, with post-processing, et cetera, but you would even maybe be able to detect it if somebody put in duplicate MAC addresses that had different format, when you're validating the schema. So this is what it looks like in the code, and that's all you'd have to add. And it's, this is what works for MAC addresses. I know there's other types of things that have this places that have this type of thing, but this is what's would work for MAC addresses. And so the proposal is that we introduce something like this. If we want to extend it to other types, we're open to that. And like I said, eventually it could work its way into Yang Next. Maybe this is a way to do some of the things that we take out of Yang Next and put them as a separate thing. So that's what it is. Questions?
Michael Richardson. So you don't have a third format for us then. So sad. So I care about serialization to CBOR, where we don't want the colons or the dashes or the hex digits. We just want bytes.
Right.
So I don't know if this is enough clue that to be able to do that. But any signal's good, but I just don't know if this is enough signal from a Yang ecosystem space thing. Of course, we want to do the same thing with V4 and V6 addresses and stuff like this, and we don't yet have a clear solution that I know of. But this sounds great.
Michael, just a clarification question. Not being a CBOR expert, why isn't that just an encoding issue?
It is just an encoding issue.
So why do we care about it?
Because I need to recognize it's a MAC address and not a string.
Okay.
Right. That's all. The fact that it's cluefully normalized, I think that's enough signal. I don't know if I don't know if there's enough signal at the right place and the right thing from a programming point of view, but
sure. Look forward.
I think it's enough signal. I mean, it looks like there's enough there to say, and when you serialize it, you should normalize it to bytes, not ASCII digits. Without, I really was looking for a third version,
Next up.
Kent as contributor, next in queue. I don't know if this is the actual problem. It may be, but I thought the problem was more with the canonical format. So for instance, the IEEE client would write the IEEE MAC address, but yet because the canonical format is the IETF MAC address format, it would get back the IETF format.
No, I mean, we're in IEEE, we're fine with the format the way it is. It's just that so the cross between the two definitions is, there's a lot of baggage on that, trying to resolve that. But as far as dealing with it that way, it wasn't a problem. It was just, it's kind of, this is kind of just encapsulates the larger problem that we don't have a way to take strings and get values out of them.
Okay.
Balázs Lengyel, I very much appreciate the problem and the need to solve it. Some questions. What is the relation between the normalized and the canonical format? So would you expect the, normalized format to get in a get config?
Well, we originally called it canonical form, and then we changed it to normalized because we thought we didn't want to be that specific. And even the to go back to the underlying value, we were careful not to say that was a value of bytes. It could be just a string value too. So we're just putting the ideas out right now, and it'd be up to the work to clarify it more, really.
It needs to be clarified. So what do you expect in a get config reply?
What's here is sufficient for our needs, but for whatever the work group wants to be, how precise they want it to be, that would be to be decided.
Next question: that is the argument of this normalized. Is it a free string, or are there rules how to define?
Yeah, that's a point. I did it as an identity, but the identity is just a string, and there's no there's no validation on that. But it would be nice that it's something that again could be checked when you're validating it, that it is, you didn't put Mac49 in, and it works too.
Okay, thank you.
Robertson. So originally I was going to say this is like a layer 8, 9, 10 problem and things like that, but I've been in that layer and I think it's intractable. You can't solve it there. So although I was initially skeptical and thinking, well, do we really need to do this? The fact is, I think actually we do need to find a solution to this problem, especially if it applies to other cases. Whether it's exactly this, I'm not quite sure, but something in space, I think we should try and find an answer. Another one could be to identify the alternative type. So like if each of them had a reference back to the other type to say, look, this is the equivalent type, that might be another way of doing it. Because I worry about these extra new encodings that are being defined here. The last comment I had is I think this is not significant enough to do as an extension to Yang. I would see this more as Yang next, but I could be open on that as well.
Okay, thank you. I think there's clear interest in this topic, but it also seems that it might be a little early to move to adoption. I think it would be really good to get more discussion on the list and get some of the feedback you've heard from the room and from others, get those issues clarified, get the document updated, and then I would expect we'd want to move quickly on this, although it's been years, but it seems like it's time. Kent, do you want to add anything?
No, it's fine. Other than I saw Joe in queue. While I'm putting up the slides, do you want to say whatever you were going to say there?
Joe Clark, this just strikes me as display hints from MIBs. Couldn't you generalize that in Yang Next and have something that would signal any type of?
So good list discussion topic. Thank you.
So, good morning, everybody. My name is Vivek. I'm from INSA Lyon and collaborating with Swisscom. And I work with my team on the Yang library feature comparison. So the objective of this project, you know that Yang evolves a lot through the years. And when you're kind of new to Yang and you want to add it in your project, the first thing to do is to understand how Yang works. This is the easiest part. And the second part is to find the right implementation that fits your requirement, especially if you have an already existing architecture. And this part is a bit more complex, but what can help you decide is to know for which implementations, the implementation status for each features. So here we have a quick overview of the Yang feature evolution through the years, starting 10 years ago with the basic features, such as schema loading, JSON validation, or any data. We have some new feature like Yang library, Yang push, Yang structure, and seaboard data validation. And we still have work in progress. For example, we have some telemetry validation, native envelope validation, or schema comparison. We have a bunch of libraries, and we decided to work for this project on LibYang, Yang tools, and YangKit because they were active. And also there was not just wrappers around LibYang. And Kent, thank you for your mail. We focus first on LibYang and Yang tools and YangKit, but we want to complete our comparison with other tools such as PyYang, YangJSON, etc. So here are some lib details for the version. And quick information, I am currently discussing with the YangKit authors in the mailing list. So I have some update for some implementation status feature. Each library is different. And for example, even if they are written in the same language, for example, YoungKit and YoungTools, they can have different type of implementation. If you took YoungTools, for example, this is like Lego stuff, and you have to build brick by brick what you want to achieve. And for example, in comparison, YoungKit is more straightforward. So for each library, we wrote the corresponding code to represent the features, and we test it against valid and invalid input to be sure that it supports the feature correctly. And after the test, we mark the feature as supported, partially supported, not supported, or not applicable. This is all the feature we test, and I will go in detail for the non-obvious one. Starting with the basic. Schema loading module inspection is the base level, so it is supported by these three libraries. If we look at JSON data validation, we mark it as partially support for YoungTools because we cannot reproduce the must test we have for the other lib. And this is what is partially support. If we go to CBOR data validation, it is now supported by LibYoung. They closed the pull request 2 weeks ago. For YoungKit, it was already supported, and for YoungTools, they do not support CBOR data validation. For the any data part, what we did is that we have like 3 scenarios. The first one is you put primitive values like a string or a number, and you expect to have an error at this time. The second scenario is you put an object without the schema. You expect an error because you don't know which schema to use to do the validation. And the last one is you put an object with the corresponding schema, and you expect the library to use this schema to do the validation. LibYoung don't support all of these scenarios. For YoungKit, if you put the primitive value, you don't have any error, and we expect to have one. And for YoungTools, the problem is when you put an object, even with the corresponding schema, they do not do any validation. So you always have an error when you use the any data in YoungTools. So for this structure is supported in LibYoung and also in YoungKit. Not that we have the same problem for any data in structure on YoungKit, and YoungTools does not support structure. This is why we cannot apply the any data inside structure and structure inside any data. For the XPath, so we have 2 use cases. The first use case is you apply an XPath on a schema node or on a schema tree to get the corresponding node or the data. And the second scenario is you want to do subtree validation. You have an original schema. You apply an XPath on it. You get a subtree, and you want to validate your data against this subtree without the constraint of the original schema. So for the XPath data extraction, LibYoung supports it. YoungKit is partially supported. For example, if you want to retrieve a container using YoungKit, you cannot do it. You have some other functions that let you do this. And for YoungTools, they have not a real XPath implementation. You have to go through a specific function. For the subtree validation, it is supported by these 3 libraries using a native function for each of them. For the Yang-to-Yang transformation, we have 3 use cases. The first one is you want to add a new schema node to your schema tree. The second one, you already have the schema node, and you want to add a new data node. And the last one is you already have a data node and you want to update its value. So you can do this in LibYoung. For YoungKit, the add new schema node is supported after discussion with the authors. I tested a few days ago, so it is supported. And the update existing data node is not supported, but this seems to be an implementation choice. So maybe we need to check what we want to do with Yang-to-Yang transformation. Do we want to support this or not? Because we have 2 libraries that are not doing the same way for this. And for YoungTools, you cannot add new schema node, but you can add missing data node or update existing data node. For the Yang library, it is supporting by all the 3 libraries. For the Yang push telemetry notification envelope, it's just a mix of any data and structure. So it is supported by LibYoung and YoungKit. Yang tool does not support structure, so we cannot apply this test. And the last one, we have this schema comparison. So it is supported in libYang, you can test it. And for YangKit and YangTools, it is implementable using the native function. Here you have a quick summary of all the feature that was tested and the result. And thank you for your attention, and let me know if you have any question.
Thank you. It was great information. Really appreciate it. Are you coming to the queue? No. Thank you. I think it's great information for the group and for the community. And with that, we're going to move to the last presentation.
Thank you. So I don't have much time, so I'll try to rush it up, or maybe not.
You actually have an extra minute.
I have an extra minute. Fantastic. So this is the a presentation of the Yang coverage. This document was presented also in Montreal last year. Was going to go into the, now this is Onion, but now that it moved to Onset, the charter didn't really fit this tooling, so we are going to propose it here, right? We're starting with 0.0 now. The basic idea of this is to, at the end, provide tooling so that you can get the coverage of a model after you have some set of valid examples. It's for authors, young model authors, for reviewers, etc. You have a set of examples, valid, of course, and at the end you will get what we call the coverage, which is basically what parts of the model you have not covered by your examples. For that, we propose something called the uncover tree, which is basically just the Yang tree of the model, but just the leaves that have not been covered. Just let me go quickly here. The problem here is that to be able to, at the end, this is a tool, and to be able for the tool to run well, we need to identify which examples are actually valid from the documents. And I think there's a gap there, and we have excellent feedback, but the feedback kind of went all over the place, so we need to start like shepherding the what to actually propose. So right now, the proposal on the document is to keep going with the code begins, code ends, but let's say we can have some kind of a prefix to set or to define or to signal, hey, this is a valid example, and so that the rest of the tooling, not only for coverage, but maybe something else, can use it. There's this internet draft with Yang modules template in GitHub, has been proposed, I don't know if officially by the area, I'm not sure. We are trying to align with that, so we use the Yang examples valid prefix for that. When you use this template in GitHub, you have to put the examples in that folder, so we're trying to align it there. We have a few proposals here. Even though examples are bulky, they could also be part of the document. So we propose that whenever examples are in the document, they can be extractable in a clear way. There's also the example begins, example ends proposal has been there, but of course I don't know how hard is that to standardize. So the code begins, code ends seems like a low-hanging fruit. There must be auxiliary, so there could be metadata that we need. And you guys probably have also experience on defining models. And so you sometimes need to do an auxiliary model and stuff like that. I still don't know how we can do that, but we have proposals for that too. Of course, we will come to a point in which not all the data for the models will be in the document. There has to be something outside. There's the bureaucracy and the practical part. In the practical part, everybody's using GitHub. Right now, this internet draft with Yang modules template that I defined, I don't know how many people are using it, but it's a concrete proposal. In that sense, we try to align with that, but let's see what, I don't know, the source of Eloche, I think, I don't know how that will work out in the future, but we'll try to get along. Now, regarding coverage itself, we had very good feedback. Rashad made very good feedback. Joe, I don't know, Rob, about also trying to cover types and unions, these sort of things. However, we're trying to leverage the Yang tree heavily for this. And if we want to show coverage of that, we might need to extend the Yang tree to also show it like in the tree.
If there's an union, don't say union, but show all the possible types so that you can not show them when you have covered in your examples. So we have it as a future work. We can keep going on that. There's a POC of this. It's working. It's based now in Jansson. I'm sorry, Libyan is too complicated. So the good point is that Jansson already has some coverage, some coverage stuff. I mean, some coverage code. We are not using the output from Jansson. We are modifying it as a library, but it's good. It's not super big. It was vibe coded, to be honest, but it's not super big, and you can actually follow it. More information in the draft. I don't have time to propose it. Yeah, I think I'm in the edge. So I was very aggressive with WC adoption. Maybe we need more time, but I don't know.
Mahesh speaking as a contributor. I very much support this work. I think not just area-wide, but even IETF-wide, if we could get all the tooling and the templates in place. You're correct to point out that I think a lot of the work anyway gets done in GitHub. So this ideally should be part of the CI/CD in GitHub itself for how to validate. Now, I have some tooling examples, but they were mostly on what I believed was what was covered, not what is not covered. So I think I like the idea that you're trying to bring forth the enforcement on the not covered portion of the model. So I would really like to see the work done.
Thank you.
Rob, actually, you go. I'll go after.
Okay, I mean, I think I've given you the same comments on the list and things. I think that getting coverage data for Yang is good. I think so. The base stuff of what you're doing, I think that's a great thing to do. I think integrating that into tooling, that's a great thing to do. The one thing I'm concerned about is not forcing all examples, like in Yang models, if the examples are having to be all complete in the document, but I think that's a separate minor thing. I support the adoption of this work, as in I think it's a good basis to then sort of progress and go forward, I think.
Canton Q, I've heard this before where we could have some examples in the document, but then in the package that you upload, there's many more examples, and those are the examples that are used for coverage.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yep. One of the questions I have is whether or not we should run the change in guidelines, the establishment of maybe example code, begin and end. Should we run that separately from the rest of the document? Because that is an update to our guidelines, because our guidelines right now say don't mark it. So we would need to address that point, and that seems like a little bit of a separate discussion and very well contained, and something we might want to do more quickly than the rest of the discussion.
I agree with that.
So as chair, I have a question about if this is the right working group for the document. Is it in the NETMOD charter?
So the change would be in guidelines. The rest of it, I'm not sure. And I think that's part of the reason why it might be worth separating those pieces. That's something we can take up with the AD. And with that, we are actually a little bit over time. Thank you all for an excellent session. We stay tuned for possible interim possible interim, and we will see you in San Francisco.
Didn't know which month it was. Is it
No,
November?
No. Interim.
Oh.